Hey guys and gals, Brooklyn Bound the Raidmaster here with another Sherpa-style guide to Scourge of the Past. This raid is still very popular for a chance at the exotic grenade launcher Anarchy, so I wanted to go ahead and make a guide for those who are still needing a little help. I'll put all my plugs and everything else at the end. Let's go ahead and jump right in. The first encounter is to escape the city via the underground tunnels. You're trying to find the location of a hidden Scourge weapon that's in a vault, and the underground tunnels are the way to it. These tunnels are blocked by fallen barriers that have to be disabled, and that's what you're trying to do. You want to assign the following roles in this encounter. First, the map reader. Second, you want to have a group of people designed for different pickups. I'll get to those in a minute, but you want to designate them pickup number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. The map reader's job is to do callouts through the entire first encounter. They should have good communication skills and be able to identify where to go very quickly. The pickup players will be picking up charged orbs that are dropped by fallen berserkers and placing them into the proper locations. Before you get started with the encounter, it's best to get familiar with the city environment that you're in. This area is a giant rectangle. It has lots of interconnecting streets, alleys, and rooftops that can all be accessed by players. In the center of the city, at the top of one of the buildings, is the map location. This is otherwise known as location number 5. You'll see why it's number 5 in a minute. There are also 4 fallen barriers located around the outer portions of the city, on the north, east, south, and west sides of the city. The Schnell building shown on screen is the easiest building to see and can be used as a reference point for north. The fallen barrier locations are numbered 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the final location is number 5. These are assigned via the holographic map that will appear up at location number 5. So, location number 1 is the northern fallen barrier located at the Schnell building. Then, if you head clockwise around the outer streets to the eastern side, you'll find location number 2. Continue clockwise around the outer streets again to the southernmost location, and this is location number 3. And then finally, continue clockwise more so around the outer side until you get to the west side location, which is number 4. You can get to these locations in any fashion really, so when heading to them, make sure you choose the most direct route. You can use alleys, rooftops, buildings, or whatever you want to get to these at different locations. So, now that geography is out of the way, how do we actually do the encounter? Well, to start, you have to kill the berserker located up by location number 5 on the rooftop, and place the orb he drops into the receptacle up there, which charges the holographic map and the timer. Yes, this is a timed encounter. You'll notice when you go to shoot the berserker that he's immune. So here I'll teach you the mechanic on how to handle them. You're going to want to remember this because you're going to be doing it a lot, and also in later encounters as well. When you get close to him, he will open up a large slowing bubble, and a weak point on his back and his chest will activate. You can see them lit up in orange. You need to simultaneously shoot and damage these weak points at the same time to break his immunity. Then you can kill him as normal. If you don't break his shields, he will shoot out a large blast from his weapon and can one-shot you if you're low power, or at least get you to critical health. Once he's dead, he will drop a single orb, and you will pick that orb up and place it in the top receptacle. This starts the encounter and charges the holographic map. You'll see the holographic map here on screen, and this is what the map reader will use for callouts throughout the entire encounter. It also charges a timer, which will wipe the raid if it reaches 0. So you have to keep placing orbs into this same receptacle up top by the map to keep recharging the clock. Now, you'll see 3 red triangles appear on the map, one of which has an orange or red marker above it. These are the location of the 3 berserkers, but the one that's marked is the real one. The players on your team will show up in yellow as well on the map. The 4 people that were assigned to pickups need to go find the real berserker while the map reader guides them to him. Once they find him, they destroy him following this procedure I already explained, and he will drop 2 orbs, not just one like the one at the map did. Now, this is when pickup order becomes very important, and this is where the numbers that were assigned come into play. Person who is pickup number 1 will pick up either of the 2 orbs that dropped by this berserker. When this happens, a number will appear above their cursor on the holographic map, and the map reader will see that number and say that number out loud. This tells the person that picked up the orb where to go. Note, the pickup number 2 should not pick up the next orb until the person with pickup number 1 has already been directed where to go. This is because if both people pick up immediately, the map reader will not know who is who, because there will be 2 dots with 2 different numbers on the map, and things can get confusing. The location number the map reader tells you is one of the 5 locations I previously explained. 1 is north, 2 is east, 3 is south, 4 is west, and 5 is the map location. Take the orb to the appropriate location the map reader tells you. If you are number 5, you are the one going to the map. Jump up on the buildings and get to the map location and place your orb in the recharge timer. If you are 1, 2, 3, or 4, you will head to the appropriate area ASAP to dispense your orb there. It's a good idea to use the mechanic of jumping and melee, jumping and melee, and jumping and melee, because this helps you move a little faster with the orb. The other 2 people that didn't pick up an orb will head to the location called out that isn't the map location as well, because they will need to kill 2 servitors that spawn there. The person holding the orb can't shoot anything or do anything really, so these 2 players have to kill the servitors so the person holding the orb can drop it in the receptacle. You have to do all of this quickly. The battery will explode and kill you if you hold on to it for too long. There is a timer. And once you've picked up an orb, you will get a cooldown for a few minutes before you can pick up another one. Now, the map reader will call the location of the next real berserker, and the same 4 people will head there to repeat the same process. Except this time, the pickups will be the person designated number 3 and number 4. Number 3 picks up first, and number 4 picks up second. This is because the first 2 people will still have a cooldown timer and will be unable to pick up an orb. You'll keep repeating this overall process until you unlock the barriers and can drop down the hole to collect your chest. Note, I only really explained the roles of 5 people here. With a 6th person, you'll be able to have someone float around, help find berserkers, help clear servitors, and help keep the map safe. This is just your floating role. You need to unlock a total of 4 barriers to finish the encounter. And as I said, once the barriers are unlocked, you can drop down and move on to the next section. Moving on, you'll enter a maze of pipes until you find a hole in the wall with a pile of rocks in front of it. Depending on which fallen barrier hole you drop down after the first encounter dictates where in the tunnel maze you start. Once you find it, drop down, hop on your sparrow, and sparrow through the tunnel until you reach the next room. The next encounter is the Ablaze Glory Sparrow Race. It's likely one of the most fun, but easily most frustrating encounters for new players. You have to quickly sparrow through the tunnels while being chased by a giant flaming servitor. If you fall too far behind, you can say goodbye to you and your sparrow. So, punch the 2 switches on the wall at the same time to start. The goal here is to make it to the end and punch 2 additional switches to lock the servitor out. The switches to start and to end the encounter must be meleeed simultaneously. Now, there is a hidden chest here which requires you to activate 8 switches. This chest can drop the mods as well as the raid sparrow, so it's well worth getting. The switches are proximity based, meaning when you get near them they activate, and when done correctly, they will turn green and make a dinging sound. As mentioned, there are 8. The video on screen shows where they are. Note that in a few spots, there are multiple in the same area, meaning 2 players should try to get them. When all 8 have been activated, you'll see a command on screen that says, "A door has opened somewhere." Once you reach the end, where you'd normally just melee the final door closing switches that lock the servitor out, you will instead see an opening that will allow you to continue. Make it all the way to the end, and hop off your sparrow, and jump up very quickly. Then jump over to the hole in the wall to the chest. Anyone who died will automatically get revived once the chest opens, and everybody will be able to get the loot. The third encounter and the fourth encounter take place in this next large area, so get acquainted with the layout. It is a giant square arena with 4 buildings in the center area. In the very center of the area is an odd-looking machine. That becomes the target of this next encounter. The goal here is to do enough damage to this machine to overload it. So, to start, split your team into 2 groups of 3. One team will be the above ground team, or the Servitor and Shanks team, and another team will be the below ground team, or the tank team. The above ground team needs to have a various array of elemental weapons, because they will encounter shielded Shanks that will rotate between solar, void, and arc, and they need to be taken down with that element very quickly. Class makeup really isn't that important here. The below ground team, I recommend a good heavy machine gun, especially arc damage to kill captains. Risk Runner is also very good. You're going to want weapons that will help clear enemies within tight quarters. When you enter the center area, you will notice a big servitor at the north end. Destroying him starts the encounter. You'll also notice under the 4 buildings are holes underground that are protected by electricity. When the servitor is destroyed, the electricity will disappear and open up the underground section for the below ground team to enter. The above ground team will stay up top. I'll cover what the above ground team needs to do first. They will be destroying Shanks that spawn from fallen drop ships that have to be done very fast. These Shanks will have elemental shields. It's best to destroy them as soon as they spawn because they can scatter and it will make it harder to kill them. Your goal here is to prevent them from getting down below ground because they will wreak havoc on the below ground team, which is trying to complete their objective. In addition, another servitor will spawn randomly down one of the 4 alleys. You'll want to call out his location, then damage him till he is almost dead, but not finish him off. You want to wait to finish him off for the below ground team to tell you, because if you do it too early, it will reset the panels down below which they are using to collect buffs, and if you do it, it can screw things up. So, once they make the call out, destroy the servitor and continue killing the Shanks until another servitor spawns. You will keep repeating this literally for the entire encounter. You just keep destroying Shanks and servitors the whole fight. Just make sure you wait to destroy the servitors until the below ground team calls it out. So now, what does the below ground team do? Well, they have the brunt of the work. Once the first servitor is destroyed, the electricity blocking the underground will go away briefly and allow you to travel down. Head down below and have everybody go the same direction. We usually go to the right. Clear all the dregs as you make your way into the first room with a panel. Do not underestimate these dregs. They basically have Lord of Wolves shotguns and can desecrate you from far away, so stay on top of them. And they spawn about every 15 seconds. When you approach the first room, it'll have a panel, and when you get close enough, it will open, and one of 4 possible symbols will appear. They are 1. A white square, 2. A red circle, 3. A blue triangle, or 4. A glitchy red circle that looks like it's short-circuited. Don't confuse this red circle with the one that is normal and stable. The one that is glitchy in dark red is the bad one. Do not punch it as it will wipe the entire raid. Each of these other 3 symbols gives a buff to the Guardian who punches it. White gives parallel radiance, blue gives angular radiance, and red circle gives continuous radiance. Punching the panel gives you ×1 of any of these buffs. So, each of the 3 below ground players will each get one of these buffs. It doesn't matter which one. Once all 3 players have their ×1 of each buff, they will call out to the above ground team to destroy the next servitor. Doing so will reset all the panels underground with a new buff. Now, the below ground team will travel through the tunnels until they find the same symbol they punched the first time, because your goal here is to have ×2 of the same buff. The underground area is a big circle, so keep rotating until you find it, and be sure to call out where each symbol is, so you don't need your teammates to find it. Finally, about collecting buffs. Once you have ×1 of any buff, you will have an AoE tether around you that disallows anyone from getting near you that also has a buff. So, if you need to get around another player, make sure you sprint quickly, otherwise you'll tether to each other and can both die. Now, once all players underground have collected 2 times of their buffs, they will call out once again to the above ground team to destroy the servitor, and this time, when the electricity goes away, they will escape back above ground to place their buffs into one of 3 receptacles. These receptacles are located at the top, bottom left, and bottom right area of the arena. Properly placing ×2 of a buff will spawn a tank on the pad right next to the receptacle. Hop in the tank and head to the middle area to shoot the machine. Make sure you avoid the mortars that come down and can destroy you. Also make sure that you note your timer on your tank, because it will explode and kill you if you stay in it too long. Keep shooting together until the health is depleted and you finish. If you don't do enough damage in one phase, hop out of your tanks, head back underground, and repeat the whole process over again. If you time your bumper missiles together with the other tank players, you should be easily able to take this thing down in 2 phases. Just a reminder, while the tank damage portion is going on, the above ground team is still killing Shanks and keeping them from damaging the tank players. Once you've depleted the health completely, you've completed the encounter and can collect your chest. The final encounter is Insurrection Prime. The machine you were just shooting at will now jump up out of the ground and mobilize. This encounter has a lot of different mechanics that are required to make it to a successful damage phase. Note, there are many ways of doing this encounter. I'll cover one of the simplest methods in this video. First, you want to designate a map reader. This person will stay at the spawn and do all the map callouts, and also aid in destroying the boss's weak points, which I'll get to in a moment. Next, you want to designate 4 people to do berserker pickups, just like you did in the first encounter, aka 2 teams of 2. Finally, designate 1 person to handle snipers and act as a support player if necessary. The best place for the sniper person to set up is at the roof on the northwestern building, but anywhere really works that you can see the rooftops. Their job will be to destroy the 4 snipers that spawn on the 4 rooftops after each berserker goes down. They also want to have a good line of sight on the boss, as they will be shooting weak points all over his body to bring down his shield. Class-wise, Hunters should be on Golden Gun with Celestial Nighthawk. Titans want to be on Sentinel with Weapons of Light Bubble, Warlocks on Well of Radiance. Whisper of the Worm with the Catalyst is best for DPS. However, Darcy is a good option too if you don't have the Catalyst for Whisper. The goal of this encounter is to obviously destroy the boss, but to get there you have a lot of things you need to do first. You need to A. Destroy all 6 weak points on the boss to break his shield. B. Destroy 2 berserkers and place 4 total orbs into the correct places. C. Shoot him with the tank that spawns after B is complete to stun him and start DPS, all within a short period of time. If you take too long to do all of these things, the boss will charge his overpowered attack and wipe the raid. When the fight begins, split all 6 players around the map to focus their sniper on the boss. When he first spawns, 6 lighted weak points will activate on his body that must be destroyed before DPS phase can start. At the start is a great time for everyone to help get some of these down early. There is 1 on each of his knees, 2 on his back, 1 on his right shoulder, and 1 under his left armpit. Each player should try to take a shot or 2 at these points to help get them down. However, if they can't get them all down within about 10 seconds, they have to move on to the next part because of time. While sniping, the map reader will call out the location of the first berserker. These spawn randomly around the ruins on the outskirts of the map. When called out, the first 2 players should head to that location, destroy the marauders that are guarding him, and take him down just like in the first encounter. He will drop 2 orbs. Also, just like the first encounter, you need to stagger the pickups and wait to be told where to go. The map reader will see a series of 1, 2, or 3 dots above the pickup person on the map and will call out that number. Location number 1 is the northernmost receptacle on the map. Location number 2 is the bottom right, which is also easy to remember because it's clockwise from number 1. And then finally, number 3 is on the bottom left, also clockwise from 2. Both players will go to the respective location and place their orb into the receptacle. Now, the next berserker will spawn, and the map reader should call out his location. The other 2 berserker people will now go to that location and repeat what the first team did. Note, if you're on berserkers but not actually designated for picking up, you can go help clear them out or help clear the berserker, or you can also help with weak points on the boss if they are still up. While all of this is going on, the map reader and the sniper person will be keeping the rooftop snipers at bay as well as stunning the boss. The boss has 2 attacks. 1, where he shoots purple projectiles while he's on the ground, and 2, where he raises in the air and attacks with a super cannon. Each time he does either of these, a weak point, which is notated by a glowing orange barrel on the back, will show up. If shot, it will interrupt the attack and add about 15 to 20 more seconds onto the overall timer that you can't see, but is ticking away before he does his super attack. So, stunning the boss as many times as possible is important to give the berserker teams maximum time to complete their objectives. In addition, every time a berserker dies, a servitor will spawn and head to the map to turn it off until it's destroyed. The map reader should focus on taking it down quickly. Once 4 orbs have been placed in the correct locations, it will spawn tanks on all 3 pads. At this point, 1 person can jump into any one of those tanks while the other 5 players get into position for DPS. You can DPS from anywhere you can see the boss. There are some spots that are great for organizing DPS though, which I'll show you here. 1, anywhere on the ground in front of the boss, wherever he may be standing is good. 2, the map area, or 3, which is my favorite, the green building on the south side of the map that has 3 ledges in front of it. Once in position, the player with the tank will shoot the boss 1 time and it will stun him, beginning DPS phase. Then, a purple servitor will open up in his midsection and this is his crit spot. Everyone will start shooting the boss's crit spot to damage him. Use Whisper, Darcy, whatever you can. Set up weapons of light bubbles, empowering wrists, well of radiance, etc. appropriately. However, when I say appropriately, it's because you actually want to organize your positioning in a particular way. Because DPS phase is very dependent on changing locations. What does this mean? Well, after about 10 seconds of being stunned, the boss will emit an EMP-type blast to the entire raid. All 6 players will randomly get one of the 3 buffs you got in the previous encounter: angular, continuous, or parallel. Remember, you cannot stand next to someone with a different buff than you, but standing next to someone with the same buff as you will boost your damage by 300%. This is imperative to finishing this encounter quickly. So, you want to pre-designate before DPS phase starts where all the people who will get the angular will stand, where the people with continuous will stand, and where the people with parallel will stand. It helps to use rifts or wells to signify this. Make sure the 3 locations are far enough apart that you aren't too close to another player with an opposite buff. You can see a few illustrations on screen for an example. The one on the left shows my personal favorite spot to DPS phase with the 3 ledges in the green building. The one on the right is an example if you are going to DPS from the ground anywhere by the boss. The easiest way to remember where to stand is ACP, ABC order. A is going to be on the left, C will be in the middle, and P will be on the right. He will shoot this blast twice, so you have to move multiple times possibly. Keep shooting his crit spot until it closes and disappears. Then, get out of there quickly, because he can AoE stomp you if you are too close. Then, head back to a location to snipe his weak points and set up for another phase to repeat everything you just did until he falls. Drop down the hole into the Scourge vault and claim your reward. Cross your fingers for that anarchy. And that's it, guys. I appreciate you watching. Please drop a like or a follow or hit that sub button for more of my most rewarding guides ever. Until next time.